the most common questions that I am asked is, how did you heal your SIBO long term? Today on part 9 of my SIBO series are all the things that I did. If you're ready, let's go. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah K. Hoffman. I'm so glad that you are here for another episode of all things gut health and gut healing. In particular, today is another part to our SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth series, and I am super excited to share all of these things that I did. So for those of you who don't know my story, I was diagnosed with SIBO in 2014, and I healed for good for the final time after relapsing several times in 2018. As of today's recording, I am almost 4 years completely healed with 0 relapses, and so now it is my passion to share every last thing that I can about how I healed my SIBO with you. So today I am going to share all of the long-term things that I have done to keep my SIBO healed and at bay and far, far away from me. So all of these things come from my ebook, which is called Reasonable SIBO. The ebook is all about how to approach SIBO in a very reasonable way without cutting every last food out of your diet, and all the things that I did and my whole journey with SIBO in general. So I am going to just share these tools with you, and if you're ready, make sure you have a notepad or a piece of paper and a pen to write these things down. Okay, keep in mind, these are all the things that I personally have done since June of 2018 that have worked for me. That's not to say that they are right or that they are going to work for you, but if they are things that you haven't tried yet, you might want to try or bring up to your practitioner and consider working on with them. So the first thing is that I have no diet. And what I mean by that is that since June of 2018, I decided to drop any sort of templated diet from my vocabulary. That means I don't do low FODMAP, I don't do paleo, I don't do GAPS, I don't do gluten-free even, I don't follow any specific templated diet. Instead, what I did and what I found to work for me and for many, many, many other women in this community as well is I created my own diet, and I give you the exact way to go about doing it and the template for it in my book, my brand new book, A Gutsy Girl's Bible, a 21-day approach to healing your gut. But that is exactly what I did, exactly what I followed. I figured out the foods that worked for me at any given moment. And I believe that you should do the exact same. Second thing, I have stuck with mostly vegetarian though. Everyone has a different opinion about meat versus vegetables. All I know is what has worked the best for my body, and also based on the research that I've done. So when I was in the thick of my healing, it was mostly meats, fats, broths that worked. That is exactly what I needed back then. But now my goal is to make my microbiome as diverse as possible, and so I eat all the things, and I definitely do not limit to just meat, fat, and broth anymore. I do eat a lot of vegetarian foods, not foods labeled vegetarian. There's a big difference, but instead just foods that are vegetarian by nature. That means fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. I do eat grains. I do always though include some type of meat or fish, which obviously meat is not vegetarian. But for the most part, I would say that I probably eat about 60 to 70% vegetarian these days. Next thing is that I still do mostly no gluten. I still believe that gluten is not beneficial for us as a human species, especially not the gluten that's out on the market these days. If I have gluten, I usually always try to make sure it's organic. One way that I consume gluten a lot is with my fresh baked organic sourdough bread. I really got into the craft and the art of making sourdough bread, and so I do consume gluten there. If I go out to eat, I am not as concerned anymore about an occasional gluten glutening here or there. I just eat it and I move on and I'm perfectly fine. Next thing is, I also rarely have dairy, still to this day. Dairy can be great for so many reasons if you can find it in its raw and or organic forms. Unfortunately, conventional dairy really doesn't do anything for the gut. And my goal at this point is to continue optimizing. And because of the research that I've done on dairy, and because I also know what dairy does to my hormones, to my acne, I have chosen to keep it out for the most part. Here and there, do I have it? Absolutely. But as a standard, I still rarely do dairy. The next thing is LDN, which stands for low dose naltrexone. I still use this medication. I was actually prescribed it when I was quite some time after I was diagnosed with colitis, because back then it was used for, and it still is, autoimmune conditions. But what research found over time is that it's also a prokinetic, and you can do all the research on it. I actually have a post on AGUTSYGIRL.com all about low dose naltrexone and its use as a prokinetic. And so because of my SIBO and because of my history with stomach and digestive issues, I have chosen to stay on it, and I swear by it. I think it has been really great for me, and it's not something that I have any intention of stopping anytime soon. The next one is anxiety medication. This is something that barely anyone in the natural community is going to talk about, even if they take it or even if they suspect they might need it. I am not afraid to. In fact, in my book, I share all about the day that I finally caved in, went to a doctor, and got on anxiety medication. This one is not specifically, it doesn't specifically go hand in hand with SIBO. However, a lot of the reasons that I kept relapsing had to do with a lot of underlying things which the anxiety was contributing to. And so for me personally, I got on the anxiety medication, and it has helped, I believe, wholeheartedly keep my SIBO far, far away. And by the way, if you want to know what anxiety medication I take, because I don't talk about it a lot, and because I'm a gutsy girl, I don't talk a ton about all of the other lifestyle things. In my book and in the story, I share the exact medication and all the other things that I did in addition to the medication in order to help reduce to almost zero anxiety levels. Next thing is HCl. HCl stands for hydrochloric acid. This is something that I do to this day and that I will do probably for a very long time. What it is it helps to increase my stomach acid. Some of you have too low of stomach acid, which is the reason why, a contributing reason why your SIBO continues to relapse. And so for me personally, it is imperative that I continue to take my HCl pills when I have higher protein meals. Along with the HCl are digestive enzymes. Whenever I mix a lot of foods or have a lot of heavier foods or have carbs mixed with fats, mixed with proteins, all of it, I absolutely 100% of the time still take a digestive enzyme in order to help further break down everything. Next thing is a probiotic. When I was in the thick of healing my SIBO, I did not take a probiotic. I still believe that most people fare better not taking a probiotic while suffering with SIBO. However, I do not think that is a long-term strategy. And for me personally, my long-term strategy is, and always has been, to continue building thriving bacteria. One way that I do that is with my probiotic. The probiotic that I use, love, and talk about all the time is the probiotic from Just Thrive. They are a partner, and because they are a partner, if you buy anything from their website, which I believe the link is justthrivehealth.com, I will put it in the notes below. But if you choose to buy anything from them, just use a Gutsy Girl code at checkout and you will save 15% on anything from them. Next thing is a multivitamin. I take a multivitamin most days of the week, not every day. I have a pretty nutrient dense, if you will, multivitamin, and that's because SIBO really depleted me of a lot. It depleted my energy levels, it depleted me of magnesium, B12, vitamin D, you name it, I was depleted from it. And so because of that, I feel like I do far better and feel better with a multivitamin most days of the week. Another one is Dysbiocide. Dysbiocide is one of those supplements that not everyone has heard about, but that I think is one of the greatest secrets for healing SIBO and keeping it gone long term. I have a post on AGUTSYGIRL.com called Dysbiocide. It breaks down every single ingredient that's in there, but I keep a bottle of it always handy because if ever I feel a little something creeping up in my stomach, I will take it for 7 days and then everything is fine again. So if you have not heard about Dysbiocide yet, definitely check it out. As it relates to supplements, the last thing I will say is that today I do minimal supplements. Yes, even though I just described several different supplements, I do not take them every day. And even the ones that I do take every day are very, very minimal. Taking supplements while I had SIBO and before I was diagnosed was a part-time job. It was exhausting. I believe today that less is more, and that if you're really, really, really focusing and honing in on your journaling, like through my journal, the Healing Blooms from Within 90-Day Gut Healing Journal, you will be able to see very clear patterns. Which supplements are working and which ones are you just wasting money on? And when I did that, and what I'm able to see today is that less is more, and I take a minimal approach to my supplements. Moving on from the supplements, next thing is therapy. I do verbal therapy. I started the verbal therapy when I got on the anxiety medication, which is also the time when I healed my gut and my SIBO for good, which was in June of 2018. I started the verbal therapy and it was life-changing, and so I continued and still do it to this day. I believe in it so strongly, and I think one of the reasons why is because it really helps with stress. And if you follow me for any length of time, you know that stress, especially chronic stress, is really probably at the root of all evils for all of our gut health problems. And so anything that you can do to help manage it and to negate its effects will be crucial. Okay, these next two, which I think I'm already on about numbers 14 and 15 if you're keeping track, they kind of go hand in hand even though they're different. I will link to it below. I think I have done a video on both of them and individually or maybe together, but one is intermittent fasting and one is meal spacing. I truly, truly, truly believe that both of these have helped me keep the SIBO gone. To be very succinct, intermittent fasting is what you do overnight before you break your fast and eat breakfast. So I'm done eating every night around 5 or 6, and I don't eat again the next day till at least 7, which would be about 14-hour fast, anytime from 7 to 10 or 11, which would be a lot longer fast.